Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Allen Snelling, President of Financial Pacific Leasing. Thanks for joining me, Allen.
Thanks, Jesse. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you on the program, man. Known you for several years. Been trying to get you on here for a while. And it's exciting to actually say that title when I'm introducing you. So congratulations on the new role.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think there's a ton of potential at FinPac, and I'm a lucky guy that I get to follow a class act in the industry that set us up right and set me up for success. And so I'm lucky to be where I'm at and lucky to be leading a group of tremendous people at FinPac.
Perfect. Well, we'll just jump right in then, Allen. And for those individuals in equipment finance who have yet to have the pleasure of meeting you, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your career to date in equipment finance?
Sure. Hate to say this, but it's aging myself a little bit, but 27 years, in the business. I started my career at GE Capital, had some stops at American Express Business Finance, Key Equipment Finance, Marlin, and now at FinPac. So not too many places and a lot of years and a lot of good people, but just kind of lucked into the intro to the industry. Actually, I started my career in the golf business, and a couple of the leaders at GE Capital, when I was in Columbia, Missouri, I happened to be working at a private club in Columbia, Missouri called Columbia Country Club, and I was the membership director and was fortunate enough to sign up for the executives that moved to town to start GE Capital up in Moberly, Missouri, and got to know them and got to know the industry, and they kept talking to me and gave me an opportunity to teach me the industry and get into the industry at GE Capital. So it was a great opportunity.
It's fantastic. I mean, Moberly, I think of like Dolphin. Wasn't that where Dolphin was out of? Was that former GE people too?
Yeah, the old Capelco, City Capital, and GE Capital.
Leaf, I think now. Is that?
Yeah, there's a lot of stops. There are a lot of good leasing people in Moberly, Missouri.
Interesting. I didn't know that. All right, learned something new, man. Well, that's fantastic. And then with GE going there, did you go through the GE training program?
Yeah, I was again really fortunate to start my career, without knowing a lot about the industry at a place that invested in training in their people. And so, the match was the competitiveness for me, but yet the desire to be the best, the desire to be the best at processing the business and building a great engine in the way that you do that. And so they put a lot of rigor around how they do business and they set up their people for success. I thought it was a great organization, a great place for me to start to get my feet wet. And, it was a great, fortunate place to start my career.
Perfect. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of that training. I mean, I was me being in this industry, but every time I hear someone that started with GE, we try to talk about the training program because I just don't think a lot of organizations do that nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then American Express, I think you said you mentioned you started that from a de novo perspective. So
yeah,
what was it like?
I left GE and joined a couple colleagues that left GE to help American Express Business Finance get into the equipment leasing and financing, and so I had a fortunate opportunity to start a de novo, start a new group, and take what we learned from GE and jump into American Express, who was ultimately acquired by Key Equipment Finance, another great organization. And so spent about 7 years there and had a couple different roles there and jumped around from Houston to Superior, Colorado, and fortunate enough to be in the copier business and had the country, and so a lot of diverse experience, both at American Express and Key.
And then did you move to Jersey when you started with Marlin, or were you remote?
I remoted. I flew a lot of flights from Portland to Philly, and that was definitely taxing, but well worth it. As another de novo, as Marlin, came out of their de novo and started the bank, they wanted to get into national accounts, and I was given the opportunity to start their national accounts group, which again, a great experience, another diverse experience with a different market. Kind of the first part of my career was in that office technology or copier space, and then national accounts was anything essential, more larger programs. And so that definitely diversified my career for sure.
So I'm just trying to knowing what I know about you. So Corvallis or Corvallis, am I saying that correctly?
Corvallis, yeah,
Corvallis to Missouri.
yeah,
Um, is that what kind of tried to you? Are you looking for an excuse to try to get back closer to your roots?
yeah. You know, the Missouri thing was, through American Golf, that was an interesting move that I was requested. I started my career after finishing my baseball career, which was at Oregon State, and then for the Toronto Blue Jays for a couple of years. And so I thought I'd ease my way into the real work world and get into the golf business. And then they moved me to one day they came into my office in the golf club called Oregon Golf Club and said, "Hey, we just acquired a club in Columbia, Missouri. We need you to move there." And I was like, "Oh, okay, okay." And so I jumped in, have a lot of things holding me back. So I jumped into Columbia, Missouri, which ended up being a great experience. The people there, that I still have great friends there, which obviously led me to my opportunity at GE Capital by being introduced to those executives at GE. But yeah, I wanted to get back out west after my time in Columbia when we had our first child and wanted to get back home. And so at that time, GE actually moved my wife and I, who were both working at GE, back home and found us positions here. Another good thing about my thoughts about GE, they helped us get to where we wanted to be. And so that was definitely a good thing.
Fantastic. Just trying to paint the pieces of the puzzle together there to
Yeah,
figure out
sure,
how you got back there.
sure.
So all right. Well, thanks for that introduction. And do you mind just kind of talking about Financial Pacific Leasing, company background, where you guys are at, tickets, and so on?
Yeah, you bet. 50 years in business this year. So first off, we're celebrating 50 years. So a testament to the leaders before, the people that are, a lot of them, quite a few were high tenured people. Our former president who just retired, Terry Jennings, spent 35 years of the 50 there. So again, a guy that was committed to the company, like a lot of other associates at FinPac, that I think of all the places I've been, they probably have the highest average tenure of anywhere I've been. So people stick around, they care about FinPac and what we do, but FinPac's evolved. They started out in the first, decade, probably 2 decades, serving the third party community, and doing small ticket PG business. And then in 2013, we're acquired by Umpqua Bank. And so that, pushed them to evolve. And that's when I jumped on board at FinPac to start again, another de novo, to jump into the vendor space that they've never been in at that point. So, and that was in 2015 that I did that. So I've been here 10 years, but I started the vendor group there. And so FinPac has evolved from doing small ticket third party business to vendor business, and then middle market direct business, and for the bank customers as well.
And traditionally known, what I think back in the day is like a B, C, and now it's like you guys are all over, right?
Yeah, I think that the bank cost of funds, bringing that in allowed us to play in a lot broader area, right? In terms of being able to serve A, B, and C, and not only A, B, and C in small ticket, but the ability to do middle market business too. So we really expand and evolved from really doing PG only $35,000, $25,000 deals to being able to do a $20 million tugboat to a C-rated credit for a restaurant. So pretty big span of credits that we can do and offer, in those three areas of vendor and third party, and then middle market direct and through the bank.
Well, and with your past experiences in dealing with that, I'm sure that definitely was advantageous to the group for sure. A little bit more from a structured perspective.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, because we entered a lot of different things in a hurry. You leveraged what you knew and what you had foundationally, but you had to change to adapt to the channel that you're in, that they weren't in. And I give a lot of credit to the leadership of FinPac and the people for being able to adapt to the markets that we wanted to be in. And so we had to change. We had to change quickly in order to compete, and we were able to do so. And we've been, successful in both vendor and middle market. And obviously, I think our legacy and what we're known for is that third party business that still makes up nearly 50% of what we do.
50%. Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you're headquartered in Federal Way,
Yep.
Washington.
Federal Way, Washington. Yeah, we've got about 220 to 225 people in our organization. And Yeah, most of them are in Federal Way, and we've got some people spread out throughout the country. But yeah, that's our headquarters.
I want to shift, if you don't mind, um, because I want to say your traditional role or career prior to, was it July 3rd?
Yep.
July 3rd, was that the day?
Yeah.
Was in a business development, or are you running a sales, running the sales organization for for the company? How does going from a salesperson to now president, I didn't know you had that GE background until just now. So, how does that kind of shape you, Alan, for the role that you're now in?
Well, I've had the luxury to be around some great leaders, going back to all those stops that I mentioned. I could mention all the names, but uh, I was fortunate enough to observe, right? And so along the way, as you grow up in this industry, you thought, well, maybe if you get that role one day, you pick out the things that you liked and the things that you probably didn't like, and you keep track of those things. But you learn something from everywhere you've been, and you learn something from leadership styles. But at the end of the day, once you're in the seat, the appreciation of how it takes everybody, to be in rhythm and to do the right things. And, I guess being in this role a few weeks now, the appreciation and understanding of what it takes, right, to do the different departments and do the jobs. And, in sales, sometimes you focus on winning the business and winning the programs or what may it be. And you sometimes maybe don't pay as much attention as you should about all of the work that people do to set salespeople up for success. And so in this role, you really start to appreciate, how important every piece of it is. You can't just sell a product, but you got to execute and you got to process it, and everybody's got to do their part. And so I think just stepping back and learning, and understanding what it takes for people to run their departments and the people that are in those jobs to do them the right way and respect what they do, because it all matters.
No, absolutely. It's like you sit there and it's, as a salesperson, it's like, all right, I got my quota. You know what? I'm gonna go play golf. I'm gonna
Right.
go do this. I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah.
And now you're just like, wait, wait, what? Who has to do that?
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
wait, what do I do now?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in the GE culture, right? And so we probably worked as hard as anybody. So I will say that when you were on flights, and I remember taking 100 flights a year in the company car, and they wanted you to be in front of customers. And so, there was always, even though there's always that thought of you can kind of skip out as a salesperson, you don't succeed unless you work at it, right? So same thing for everybody.
I say that jokingly, but you know what I mean. You sit there some days and you're just like,
That's the way
okay,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. Wait, so much
I think
responsibility.
there's less golf in my future now, I think for sure.
Well, I mean, Terry eventually figured it out.
Yeah.
So, you
Yeah.
know, not to
Yeah.
say you need like 20
It's
some
six or
more years before that happens, but
I
I'm
guess
sure
you got
he
to
could.
play a little bit if you're Terry, and you know, 6 or 7 hole-in-ones, I think. So he must have found time somewhere. I only have one, so I got a long ways to go.
I'm at zero,
You're
so
zero.
it's fine. I'll be there. I was lucky to be
Working
part of
hard.
one of Terry's, so it's fantastic. And I guess speaking of Terry, 35 years there, so big shoes to fill. Um, I guess what are your thoughts on that transition, or I guess when they introduced you as president, were you a little, I guess, intimidated to step into his shoes, or just kind of want to talk through that?
Of course, he was beloved not only by the people of FinPac, but everybody in the industry. I always say, of all those people I mentioned, I've worked for Terry the longest, and Terry, I guess I would label him as the gentleman of the industry. I don't know that there's anybody that's ever said a bad word about Terry. And, he's just a super likable guy by the people that work for him, that work with him, that work beside him. And so, I probably heard the words, "You have big shoes to fill," 1,000 times.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
It was
Trying to
announced,
be,
right?
I try to be original. Fail.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, and he did it all the way through, which was, right up his alley, right? He was classy along the way, and we spent 2 months transitioning, and he was so meticulous of everything he did that I was having to pick up and transition to. And so, nothing but gratitude and for him, and being able to help set me up to take over. And it's, it could be viewed as a big disruption, and you know I'm not Terry, and so I probably will do some things different. But initially, you want to keep things going as they are because he had a good thing going. So I'm not looking to disrupt the things that are good and to keep trying to push FinPac forward really and continue to stay on the leading edge of whether it be technology or process, but ultimately experience for our people that work for us and for the people that do business with us.
Well, and you have a good senior leadership team that works side by side with you. I just think of Laura and Jody,
Yeah,
surrounded. I'm sorry for not leaving some people out there, but
absolutely.
you guys have done a good job surrounding yourself with some good generals that can help you along the way. So
Yeah, not a lot of change in that leadership team, and so you got some people that are, know what they're doing and that they're in the spots and can keep going and keep the whole FinPac engine going.
yeah, I appreciate Terry. He's kind of a good, not necessarily a mentor, but every time I came to the Seattle area, like he would always go out of his way to try to find some time to get me in his schedule. So then
Absolutely.
again, all I had to do is dangle maybe golf in front of him, and I
Yeah.
don't think it was a lot of twisting there.
Exactly.
Um, I want to shift real quick, if you don't mind, to kind of like the state of the industry right now. So we're almost 7 full months into 2025. How are you seeing, I guess, business, Alan, from a originations perspective, I guess delinquency perspective, like where are things at?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year. There's some months you didn't think you were busy, that you were busy, and you thought you might pick up the second half of the year as maybe interest rates on the surface would be, reduced, and that would
Yeah.
create some energy. We had the bill that passed, that creates some depreciation stuff for customers that could create some energy. But it's been kind of up and down. Delinquency's gotten better. We had a tough time over the past couple of years. We had some concentration like those that did in transportation that took their lumps. But it steadily improved. And we steadily diversified our business, and so we have been cautious. After you go through some of the tough times, you don't just jump back into it. So we've been cautious from a credit standpoint, and we've probably valued how we do things in profitability and being more measured than just being fully in growth mode. And so we've done well. We've had a good year, so far, mostly because of our portfolio coming back, what I would say, in the line and into levels to where our provision's not as high. We can focus on service, and we can focus on making sure that the service we provide gives us good profitability. And so we've been really measured and disciplined on that front. So we're a little off on our plan on volume, a little ahead on some other areas, but all in all, I feel like we're in good shape midway through the year. And I'm hoping some of this, what I would believe is some pent up demand and some people standing by to see what happens in the economy, maybe get some more predictability and more comfort and more trust of what it looks like going forward to start investing in equipment again. So I feel like it should pick up here and get a little bit more stable, I hope, in the next several months.
Yeah, summertime. So I guess
Yeah,
we'll really find out come another 4 weeks or so. But thanks for sharing that. I mean, I always ask like people that question because I mean you've been through some cycles
sure.
throughout your tenure. I
Yep.
mean, you said I'm not going to date you again, but 27 years. So been through a few of them.
Yeah, the '06, '07. Now, the last couple of years, just, it's a cyclical business too. There's good times and there's tough times, and you have to adapt and learn and evolve. And, hopefully, you never know if it repeats itself, some of the tough times, but you learn from them. And so you prepare and you position yourself to be a little bit more prepared the next time that maybe it gets a little tougher.
Well, and then as I've been doing a few of these, more of these over the last couple of weeks, like when I asked the question, there's way more optimism now than there was towards the beginning of the year, where people, I guess, I mean, people are still cautiously optimistic, but I
Yeah,
think with that big, beautiful bill with the 100% depreciation and everything else,
correct.
like you said, that pent up demand, eventually it's just that wall is just going to be crushed through. So
I hope so. I hope so.
perfect. And then I also talk a lot about like trade associations and kind of what they've meant to your career and FinPac, what they mean to the organization. So I know I probably pretty much where you and I've met was probably the ELFA event.
Yeah.
at some point over the last 20 years. So just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on those associations, Alan, and what they mean to you in the business.
Yeah, really important, for a couple of reasons. One, all the advocacy efforts that go on, for our industry. So you can lean on them for information, know that they're lobbying and doing the best, for our industry. And then also just the networking opportunities that exist. The one thing I mentioned that I had a ton of great people and leaders I worked alongside and for, but the people that I know in the industry, I've built a ton of friends, and I can call on them and they can help me out. Hopefully I can help them out sometimes, but the networking, the knowledge that you get, showing that in those associations, how, whether it's next gen or the women in leasing, that's just how we continue to evolve as an industry, and it's their leadership in those things. And so it's important that we stay close to those. And I think it's something we can all lean on and definitely continue to invest in and participate in.
Absolutely. I mean, those associations foster the environment for just business to get done, quite
Absolutely.
frankly,
Yeah.
as opposed to nothing wrong with the old, like you said, GE roadshow, right? Where you're just like,
Right.
hey, I'm going to start in Southern California. And
Yeah.
I guess you just stay in Southern California at this point, leasing. But, you just drive around for 4 or 5 days, have 10 meetings, but
Right.
you can knock it all out at a conference, and easier that.
You bet. You bet.
Awesome. And then what advice would you give to somebody that's just getting into the industry?
I think the best advice is learn as much about all parts of the industry as you possibly can. I think that if you go into it as you grow in a role, one, it opens it up. You may not know, you may think you want to be in sales to start, but if you had exposure to credit, or you had exposure to operations or portfolio management or accounting or whatever that may be, I think the more you could get exposed to, I think that can enable your career path, but also appreciate, along the way in your role, what other people do and how much you depend on them to do that. And so I think the earlier you can understand all facets of the business and be able to spend some time doing that, I think long term you're going to be better off.
Well said. I mean, I just love when people are just like, oh, I want to do what you do. And it's like, you gotta kind of know how the sausage is made before you can sell it.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, maybe you should know, I guess. You don't have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Excellent. And you mentioned earlier that so you played at Oregon State, played for the Blue Jays, which I think when I first met you, when you were telling me about that, I was like, wait, what? Like, awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What was that like, Alan,
Oh,
coming out of like college?
another great fortunate experience, both to be at a great university, which I always, go Beavs. I'm always been a Beaver. I go to all the games still and still have really close ties there. But, having a chance to play at a minor league level, I didn't play in the big leagues or anything, but 2 years in Canada was a great experience. So I spent both my minor league seasons in Canada, one in Medicine Hat, one in St. Catharines, and, the different cultures, the different people. And I'm half Costa Rican, which maybe jumps to some other question you might have had for me, and what's different about me.
All right.
uh, um, but I was able to. I grew up. My mother was Costa Rican. My grandparents, immigrated here from Costa Rica, and so I was always in a Spanish-speaking household. And so when my first year, in Medicine Hat, I got to room with a player from Dominican Republic and a player from Venezuela. So I was able to help bridge the gap in, their lack of English language and help a little bit. I wasn't great at it, but I could somewhat translate for them. So like when we went to restaurants and stuff to eat, they needed me. Otherwise they didn't. But yeah, no, it's good. It's a great.
That's funny. I was going to say part of my ignorance to that part of Canada, but as long as they didn't speak French, I guess, then you'd be
I
really
wasn't
kind of
that
like,
far
wait,
north, right? It was,
what?
I'm sure there was French speaking people, but mostly English speaking in the two places I was. Yeah.
That's awesome. You were able to experience that, and um, I was going to go into the fun fact next, but
I jumped.
did I steal? Did I steal it there?
I might have stole it from you. So yeah.
I did not know. So like, are you fluent? Or I'm sure it's kind of one of those things that if you immerse yourself back with it, you can probably pick it up pretty
That's what
quickly.
it is, right? When you're around it more, it kind of pick it up, and I can understand it more than I can speak it probably. But I can get by. I still go. We were able to go there last year and see some relatives, back in Costa Rica. So you kind of pick it back up. But I'd say partially, fluent in it. I would say.
All right. Well, now I know how I can challenge you next time I see you at a conference. I'm gonna bring over like Ricky or Ricardo or some other friends and be like,
There you go.
let's
Yeah,
do it. My final question is, um, congratulations on Financial Pacific on 50 years. I did not know that. So 75 is when it started.
it is. Yeah,
Wow, that's crazy.
yeah,
Congrats. It's a big milestone.
absolutely.
Um, Last question I have for you. Why should someone want to do business with Allen Snelling and Financial Pacific Leasing?
Well, I would say it's they'd want to do business with the people that work at Financial Pacific, not me, right? Because the people that make up our product for sure, and they create that experience every day. And I think it's the human element of FinPac. I've always said since I've been there, in all honesty, I feel like our people have made up a lot of the value that we bring. They know we care. They know they can count on them. They know that we're going to work hard. I think if we pair that, with evolving our technology and our processes and continue to be better. The other thing is, I think we've been incredibly consistent. We don't jump in and out of things. We've been measured in what we do, and we've been there, right? 50 years, you've been there. You can count on us. We haven't changed a lot, which is both good and bad. Some things we got to change. Some things it's great that you stay the same. And so we're trying to bridge that gap a little bit in evolving, but yet retain our roots of what people have valued FinPac for. And I think it starts with the people, and it starts with the consistency and always doing the right thing. I think our people always do the right thing. And, um, we work hard at what we do and believe in the industry and what we do for those customers that and helping them acquire equipment and trying to create the best experience we can, whether it's a third party originator, a vendor, a banker that refers to us, or an end customer. We want to create the best experience we can.
Perfect. I mean, just what I've known about your organization for the 20 years. Well, I think August 5th makes 20 years. So I guess by the time this airs, it would have been in the industry for 20 years. So, but what I've known is a testament to everything you just said. So, I really appreciate your time today. Congratulations again
Thank you.
on the new position. Excited to see how the organization grows underneath your leadership. And thanks again for your time, man.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to as well. I think we've got a ton of opportunity, and looking forward to the next phase of FinPac and seeing what I can do to help lead that. But again, it's all of us, and so I'm looking forward to seeing our whole organization evolve.
Excellent. Talk soon, Alan. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse.